Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Safety Committee meeting for April the 9th, 2025. First thing on our agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from our March 12th meeting. Have you guys had a chance to review?
Yeah. I make a motion that we accept the minutes as written for the March 12th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next thing on our agenda tonight is visitors and public comments. Anyone wish to come forward to the podium, state your name, address, and whatever's on your mind.
Hi, I'm Roger Wright. I'm at 209 West North Street, and I'm here today to talk to you about a problem that we've run into on West North Street regarding noise from ATVs and dirt bikes and mini bikes. The problem really began on Christmas morning. The noise in the backyard, the neighbors behind us must have got a new ATV, and they were driving around Christmas morning, and we thought that it's nice, kids got a nice gift there. We were hoping maybe the owners of that property had other property outside the city that they'd be taking it to, but that is not the case. It continues to be in the backyard. They've since added dirt bikes, mini bikes, and if you're familiar with West North Street, it's a half moon street. It ties into Baldwin, and in that U shape, there are 25 houses like ours that's their backyard. It's the backyards touch with that property. It's a larger lot in the city, but it's right, close to downtown. So again, we've got nothing against dirt bikes or ATVs, and we're all for kids getting outside and doing things outdoors, but the noise is really loud. I would equate it to somebody running chainsaws, and we have a deck back there, we have a patio, and it's just to sit back there, you can't really talk. When the weather was nice, they were out, we had the windows open, you can hear it right in your house. So I just, on the basis just that it's a noise nuisance. And like I said, ours is just one of many houses that are in that, vicinity there. So we just, we talked to Dave Parrish. Dave said, take it up with the city. The police came out, and did what they could, but their hands were limited because there currently is not an ordinance against, the ATV, dirt bikes and stuff within the city limits. So we're just bringing that to your attention, asking if there's something that you could do, anything you could do that would help, we would appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ma'am, do you want to speak also? You have to come up here. I'm sorry.
I wrote an email to Matt Hiscock and Brad Proudfoot, so they are aware of the situation. I also have video and audio if anybody wants to hear it. It's awful. So,
Thank you.
the police said, well, it's the noise ordinance only goes from 10 at night to 8 in the morning. I don't want to listen to that. I don't care what time of day it is. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Copley, members of the committee, I can respond at least in part this evening. With the rights being here, I'd be happy to do so if you would allow me that time.
Please.
So, and I'm going to ask maybe Chief Chafin to fill in the blank as the chief enforcement officer in the city in terms of codes and those kind of things. Let him add some of that. So, and I'm going to call them by their first name, sorry, because I feel awkward calling them the rights kind of thing at this point. So Sharon's right. I have spoken to Mr. Proudfoot about this particular issue. This is not an issue that I would say is narrowed to just their conditions and what they report to you. We have had instances of ATV, UTV, and dirt bike riding at different times throughout my 18 years with the city in different areas of the city. And they are correct, and what has been passed along to them is correct in that, to a certain degree, law enforcement officers, police officers are handcuffed, pun intended, as to what they can really do in this particular situation. And I, for one, don't think that the noise ordinance is perfectly situated to address this particular condition. It's not only because the noise ordinance has hourly restrictions, but our noise ordinance is based upon a reasonableness standard. And the reasonableness standard is one that can be challenging at times, but can also be helpful at times. But in this particular situation, I think we find ourselves with different possibilities in which a separate ordinance is useful that actually restricts or prohibits certain behaviors. The reason being is chainsaws. I think most people understand the noise that chainsaws create. Most people understand that chainsaw noise, when done in moderation and when done properly to remove a single tree or a standing tree, is not a durational noise aspect that's going to cause months and months of pain and anguish or a lack of quiet enjoyment of one's property. The same can be said for construction. I had a neighbor who had a roof going on. It was loud. It was louder than normal early in the morning, and it was louder than normal during that particular day, but it wasn't something where they were having a roof put on day in and day out for months at a time. And so the noise ordinance works well in certain situations, but in other situations, it's all about what is reasonable and durationally impacted. I do think our noise ordinance does a good job at different times enabling the men and women in blue to make decisions out in the field about what is or is not tolerable and what is or is not going to be something that might be able to be prosecuted and perhaps prosecuted successfully in our court. I like enabling our officers with that ability to think, make decisions, and protect our community, whether it be from noise or other particular instances. When we talk about UTV driving, ATV driving, or dirt bikes, I think it's understandable, and I'm looking at a couple of folks who I know are pretty familiar with some of those types of vehicles. It's pretty understandable that for the most part in our community, in our city, within the boundaries of the city, that's probably not a behavior that we want to encourage in a residential area. It's probably not a behavior that's useful anywhere in the particular city. In this particular situation, we have folks, maybe unintentionally, getting gifts and children enjoying that, but for how long a time should that be permitted before it does become a nuisance to neighboring property owners? I think this is the same situation that the police department have been called to answer in other parts of our city where you've had dirt bikes running or motors running or loud noises of long duration that isn't appropriate in terms of the city. Here we have vehicles, and I think vehicles is a determining factor in why I would ask you to consider an ordinance, because you can prohibit that activity while still allowing ownership and the ability for people to enjoy those things, just not within the city proper, if you will. And so it's not outlawing a situation where you're not permitted to have those items, you're just not permitted to have them in the city operating at an instance which causes undue burden on your neighbor. And that's pretty reasonable, I think, for us to consider. I think that's the right thing for us to consider. And having a tool for enforcement, an ordinance that prohibits that behavior, is a good thing to enable our law enforcement officers to enforce. In talking through a couple of different scenarios with Mr. Proudfoot, I know that he did draft an ordinance. It needed some tweaking. I think Chief was able to weigh in on some tweaking too. I didn't have it for you today, and that's why it's not on your agenda. But I think we can get it pretty quickly for your consideration. And he was well on his way in terms of drafting something that might be applicable. There's another issue that I think comes to mind here, and it's because of the age we live in. Dirt bikes, UTVs, and ATVs are changing like any other vehicle out there. There are now many that are electric oriented. So it's not a noise situation in that particular issue. It's how does someone use their property if they're using an electric form of those vehicles. Some of those vehicles are maybe downsized. They're not something you might see at someone who off-roads regularly, but they're child-sized and they're electronic in nature. If you ran those for 5 to 6 hours a day around your house on your half-acre parcel or less, that's probably going to cause an issue. I guess it's all in the eye or the ear of the beholder, but it's probably going to cause an issue anywhere in our city, in any residential neighborhood. So it's not just the motorized aspect of these vehicles, it's the electric or other technology, whatever might come out that is. I think it's the behavior that we have to pattern an ordinance against, not necessarily the actual individual vehicle that's involved. It's vehicles and behavior that is the key to the nuisance level issue that some of our residents may see in terms of this and other aspects in the past. I mean, with that, I'd ask maybe Chief Chafin to weigh in from an enforcement perspective, or perhaps on any of the issue that I have not addressed.
No, I would second everything that the safety director has already brought up. I certainly appreciate and consider your perspective and situation to be very reasonable. I guess just so you're aware, the committee's aware as well too. As it worked its way up to me, I did talk to the prosecutor and law director to say, hey, is our analysis correct? Do you feel like this would be difficult to prosecute successfully? They did agree. I have seen a draft. The lieutenant and our sergeants weighed in on that draft, have sent back edits on that draft. But I think the groundwork, which was patterned on another city that already has this legislation in place, made a lot of sense, made it easy to enforce, and I think would completely address the issue, because the safety director is correct. This doesn't happen every day. It's not something that's even happened every month. But during my career, it is not the first time we have heard a complaint like this, and we faced similar challenges with those as well too. So I agree wholeheartedly with what the safety director presented, and I would also assume that we are relatively close to having an actual draft piece of legislation for consideration, and with the edits we discussed, I would be in favor of supporting that.
Would it be possible to have that draft legislation forwarded to members of the committee to look at?
Absolutely.
And then,
And I would suggest
maybe before the next safety committee
That's
meeting,
what I was gonna say.
we could, have all our input, and that kind of stuff, and, go from there and, get it moved forward. Because summer's coming, so it's only going to get worse.
we definitely
It's
can,
not going to get any better.
we definitely can do that, and that would be, if you're comfortable with that, I would suggest that once we see it in as finalized a draft format as we can get from the law department, Chief and I will review it one last time, but then we could forward it on to you all for consideration. Not that we have to wait till the next safety committee to do that, but just get that to you sooner.
Yeah,
Like
sooner than later.
like I said, without any caveats, I had hoped to have that for you tonight. Did not see that finalized version yet. So.
Because I do know, well, I myself have a licensed UTV that's legal on the streets, and everything by state law. So, I mean, and it's loud. There's no other way to say it. Most UTVs are loud, so.
And now's a good time, maybe if we talk about some of those caveats or questions or knowledge that you all have, we can do our best to try to answer that. Again, we're not looking at our piece of legislation, obviously, but, Mr. Covey, you bring up an excellent point. There are licensed ways to operate those vehicles on streets. That is not the type of vehicle that will be prohibited by this particular ordinance, and not the type of use that would be prohibited by this type of
Yeah, because I don't ride mine around my yard. I mean, so, there's a difference.
But I also know,
Because you say you don't ride it around the yard. These folks have a big backyard. They've made literally a racetrack.
Well,
So they're riding in circles for 2 hours at a
Yep.
time.
yep.
So at 6 o'clock PM, I don't want to listen to that. At 10 AM, I don't want to listen to that,
So they've got a track.
Yeah.
And that has happened in other locations where they don't have as large a parcel as this particular one at question, and they ride around a residence in just a big circle loop. So that type of application of an ordinance which prohibits that type of behavior is probably what we're
That's what
looking
we
at,
need,
what we
yeah.
need.
Other members of the
well,
committee?
I just know that once in a while you'll see one that's plowing snow. Again, I would hope that would be exempt. It's being used as it's made to be done. I actually used to keep one over here to dress plow my lot. But I would hope that we would still allow that, so and I totally agree with you. I had a neighbor when I lived in another community, did the same thing. He had jumps and stuff, and all hours of day and night. So,
Yes, Mr. Rosberg, there is a carve-out for if you were using it to plow your driveway.
okay, that's,
in the draft.
yeah, I just want to make sure that we include that for utilitarian purposes, what they're made for, I would like to have that caveat in there.
What was your comment about the electric part? I mean, you're not talking about like 6-year-old kids that are getting like the Razor dirt bikes, riding them on the sidewalk in front of their house, so are you?
Well, that's kind of prohibited already to a certain extent, but no, they're making larger models than the Razor child-oriented models that uses battery technology.
Souped up golf carts.
Yeah, that basically uses that.
Okay.
I don't think, Chief, maybe you have seen, I don't know that we've had that.
I used to own a
particular-
4-wheel drive.
Okay.
It was called a bad boy buggy, and you would not know it was electric, except when it ran, you didn't hear it. It could do any and everything over trees. It was jacked up 16 inches, and yeah, it's crazy what they have out there.
So, Mr. Yurchak, I have read cases where there have been those types of things involved that the vehicle is somewhat silent, if you will,
Yeah,
based upon
it
the
was.
technology, but their behavior is to run circles in a residential lot
Yeah.
all hours of the day and night. Kids, if you will.
Mine would actually go 35 miles an hour.
That
on battery.
behavior is what I was making reference to.
Yeah, I see them all over, right? I mean, there's all kinds of kids that are getting these things for Christmas, and they charge them up and they run for 20 minutes, and then they got to charge them back up again. But
Yeah.
it'd be interesting seeing an officer pull up on a kid with a little helmet on that's 7 years old, and they're saying,
We may or may not do that.
right, yeah. So I just wanted to kind of,
Is there any way that we can piggyback into this ordinance, Class 3 electric bikes and stuff on sidewalks? I mean, other communities around here have done that. Richfield, I think, was the one I last seen on the news. Because, I mean, they have 3 different classes of electric bikes that I'm aware of, and some of them should not be on sidewalks. I mean, should be on road, because to me, that's just as dangerous to the citizens, having a Type 3 electric bike going up and down the sidewalk with kids, because they get them as gifts, just, like there. So,
There's this principle in the law, and in particular in prosecution areas of the law, that you want to make sure that an ordinance has a single basis or intent. When you start to mix intents or bases, that can be complicated. But that doesnn't mean that we can't
We
still
can't do it
consider
differently.
that. No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Yeah. So I don't know that this would be a perfect ordinance to weld those both together, because those are 2 very different activities, I think,
very different.
involved there. So.
but I think it would be a good idea to start looking at that now too, because
Yeah, I
those are
think-
getting more popular. This has come up 3 or 4 times.
I was gonna say,
during this
didn't-
meeting.
Yeah. But I think one of the things we've come up with that is it's hard to tell,
Yes.
visually looking at it, is it a Class 1, is it Class 2, or Class 3, until they hit a speed variation. So that's the hard part of that Class 3. You got to get those who own it to understand and behave properly, because you can't visually just look at it and say, oh, that's Class 3, that's Class 1. I think that's the biggest problem we've had as we talked about it.
I think there was also an aspect, and Chief, correct me if you recall differently, we give great deference to the patrol officers, rightly so in my mind, because we will be asking them to make the stops and do the enforcement on these types of things. And so we like to check, is this something you see as a problem? Is this something that you come across often? Is this something to do that? And with all of the things that we task our police officers to do, is it proper to be asking them to make stops on these types of bicyclist issues, on those types of things? And is it the way we want our officers spending their time and efforts to do that? Not to say that there are great parts of the job and not so great parts of the job, but that is a factor. And I think we looked at that the last time we were talking about bicycle-related enforcement and issues in that area. So that is something to be cognizant about too, that we always look to some of those approaches.
Any other questions? So you're going to get us the ordinance, the draft,
Yes, I will
look at
follow.
prior to the next safety committee meeting?
I will do that. I will follow up with the law director once he gives us what he's come up with in the finalized draft format. I just need some time for Chief and I to review that and go through it a little bit. And then I will certainly share it with the committee, and I'll also share it with Sharon and Roger so that they see it too, kind of thing.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you very much.
You guys have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
It's not that easy. Okay, that moves us on to our chief's reports. We'll start off with Chief Chafin.
Thank you, sir. Taking a look at the first page, starting with the dispatch-related statistics. Over 3,400 total phone calls received in dispatch for the month, 1,673 calls for service. It's down about 3% compared to March of last year. Year-to-date number is down about 4.9% compared to last year. The split between police and fire, 81-19. Busiest overall day of the week was Tuesday, averaging 63 calls a day. Busiest district was District 2, and busiest times of day, 3 p.m. Primarily, but 9 a.m. a close second across the board. Any questions on the first page? Out of order. Taking a look at traffic stops, 343 for the month of March compared with 306 last year, so that's up 12%. Year-to-date, those numbers are up 6%. Traffic citations up 15% for the month, and up 288 compared to 220 where we were at last year. Parking sites, 23 March, 81 year-to-date. Again, we've seen much lower numbers since changing the fines last year. And misdemeanor citations, 14 for March compared to 17 year-to-date. The year-to-date number is down. Looking at accident reports, property damage and injury combined totaled 25 accidents. That was the exact same number we had last March. Year-to-date, we're at 101 compared to 95, so up slightly. Private property accidents were down for the month, but that year-to-date number is up higher by about 33%. No pedestrian accidents for the month. We did have 3 hit skips, and we only had 1 alcohol and drug-related, so year-to-date numbers so far trending down there. Our multi-accident intersection location was High and Park Center. We had 2 different crashes there, about 20 minutes apart on the same day. One was essentially an ACDA heading northbound into the intersection, and then we had a car pulling off of Park Center that got hit by a car that was northbound on 94. So that last one, we haven't seen too many of those, but that was the multi-accident intersections there. The breakdown by street, a little bit more of an even spread this time, the 2 highest being High Street at 6, followed by I-76 with 4. Taking a look at some of the report data, thefts, 18 for the month, 60 for the year, so that number is trending up slightly. Domestic violence, we had 5, which was up month-to-month comparison, but year-to-date, the number is down slightly at 11 compared to 15. Also a decrease in sex offenses, both by month and by year-to-date numbers. Drug-related numbers for the year, up slightly, 17 compared to 12, and OVIs, continuing to see a lot of good proactive efforts from the officers, so those numbers are pretty similar, 21 year-to-date compared to 23 last year. Warrant services, slightly down for the year, 46 compared to 55, and 13 in the month of March compared to 19. So our reports, month to month, 25 to 24, exactly 96. That year-to-date number is down about 8% total. Any questions on that page?
Yeah, back last month during this part of your report, I asked you about the square.
Yes,
the
sir.
number of accidents we had and the severity of them, where they were located and everything like that, and I haven't seen anything.
Yes, so we have data. Was it attached to the agenda?
I don't think it was, Chief.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see
I
it.
looked.
I did not place it on there.
Gotcha. I have that data, so if it's, or I can talk about it now, or if you want, I can finish the rest of the report, and then we
Yeah,
could...
go ahead and finish the rest of the report. But at this point, when I asked the last time, and
Yep.
I just hadn't seen anything.
We do have it.
Yes.
And I will certainly get what Chief has developed to the committee.
Okay, thank you.
So no other questions on this page? So taking a look, again, reports even month to month. District 1 and District 3 tied for the most number of reports by district. Arrest data, 39 this March compared to 36 last year. Year-to-date numbers very consistent as well, too, 126 to 121. Non-investigative report calls, assist households or motorists, suspicious persons, and traffic and parking complaints are our 3 highest there. Taking a look at Officer of the Month. So for the Officer of the Month 2025, this is Officer Gramley. Officer Gramley, he came to us last year, he just started last year in January. You may recognize his name as he was Officer of the Month several times last year. He came to us from Akron PD, but has just really hit the ground running in Wadsworth, is doing great work. Night shift, they have way less traffic to deal with, so that, overall 12 traffic stops may not look like an Officer of the Month statistic necessarily, but he is consistently getting great things out of those stops. Very targeting areas that we are interested in increasing enforcement, turning those into OVI cases, turning those into drug cases. He had in the month, in February as well too, responded to Comfort Inn, provided Narcan, did a great job on that report. Utilized some of our city cameras to see someone driving off the road, was able to catch up to that vehicle, got an OVI stop out of that. Again, just somebody who, in the short time he's been here, is already recognizing faces, understanding history, knowing who he needs to talk to and what looks suspicious and doesn't.
Doing the
So
right thing. Doing the right thing.
doing the right thing, and is just his supervisor last year and has a new supervisor this year, but both of them just consistently sing his praises. So been a really good addition to the department. So March 7th, we attended the Suprema Senior Center bingo auction. We had to be the escort for eggs during there. Eggs are a high-value item. They needed a police escort, so we're happy to do that. We assisted the fire department with the statewide tornado drill. We attended Corey Bowling's Lorain County Community College Police Academy graduation. We also helped with traffic control for Feeding Medina County. Lots of training in the month of March, emotional survival for first responders. Alternative Paths was able to put this on for free through a grant. Dr. Kevin Gil-Martin, great resource, nationwide, worldwide speaker, really. So really lucky to have him in Medina County again, and officers to get to that. TCCC for the officers, trained in-house. Active killer response, trained in-house. Crisis intervention, CIT training. So a lot of our newer officers, one of our dispatchers was able to attend that. Again, free training put on by Alternative Paths here in Medina County. We had one of our officers, we have a second trainer now getting certified in the Gracie survival tactics to help out with that. Some drug-related courses for our future canine officer, and advanced search techniques and hidden compartments as well too. So a lot of training, busy month there as far as that goes. We did not have any overdoses for the month, so no changes on the overall overdose report. And before taking a look at the accident data, I also want to inform the committee. Last year, we had applied for the statewide body-worn camera grant, so it's a grant where those funds are directed specifically towards those projects. I'm very happy to report and would like to sing the praises of Lieutenant Dorland, as he's the one who completed the application. This year, there were more applicants for more total dollars than there was in the pot of money. But Lieutenant Dorland has returned with a 100% funded grant application despite those circumstances. It's $55,244.68, no match from the city. It'll allow us to not only upgrade to the latest generation of body-worn cameras, but it's going to allow us to expand up to 28 body-worn cameras in our total pool, new docking stations for the cars, and it's also going to cover a year's worth of our redaction software, the Case Guard, that we had recently purchased to keep up with a lot of the video requests as well too. So just really excited about that, but also kudos to Lieutenant Dorland for coming through with that. I just kind of assumed across the board everybody would see a cut in theirs, but we did not in ours. So it's going to allow us to refresh and expand that program with no match from the city whatsoever. So
Great.
very excited about that.
Awesome.
So taking a look at accident data, and I would overall tell the committee that there were not a lot of surprises in the report. So what the safety director can share is we had essentially a totals page with graph, totals for the entire square area, and then broken down by each street coming into the square, and it was within the limits that we had discussed at the last meeting. So two primary causes for accidents, and I'll just kind of go over the overall numbers, and again, I don't think anything in here is very surprising. Two primary contributors: improper backing and ACDA. ACDA year in and year out is roughly 35 to 40% of all of our accidents across the city at large anyways, so I was not surprised to see that. But the primary cause for accidents in the square was improper backing. The next closest, which is about half of either of those numbers, was improper lane change. Day of the week for most accidents, Friday. So I don't think a surprise there. Time of day for those accidents, an overwhelming majority, 66% of those are between the 12 and 6 o'clock hours. Main Street did have the most. They had 47, followed by Broad Street, had 31, High Street at 26, and College Street at 20. And again, the time frame from this was January of 2019 through March 13th of 2025. So a 5-year look-back period. Those numbers are pretty consistent across the board, street by street, but that's what that data looks like. So we can share that in the graph and chart form with the committee. If you have any specific questions or want to dive in any further, happy to do that, but I can kind of go off of any questions that
I think
gentlemen
once
have.
he sends that to us, I mean, if we have any questions, we can, discuss it the next, because the only reason that I'm asking about this for is for the downtown improvement plan. As it moves forward, so we got plenty of time. And I'm sure you're going to provide that to the engineering firm and everything.
Yeah, we did that last time and we'll do it again. Yeah, so they also use ODOT's graphing system because of the state route that captures some of those reports too. So, yep.
Okay. Do you gentlemen have any other questions on it or anything like that? You okay with it?
I'm good with it, yeah.
Yep.
It proved exactly what I think when we were talking, most of it is backing, or, yeah.
Yeah, 30, I think out of all those accidents, 36 were improper backing, 33 ACDA.
How many injuries out of all of them? I can't imagine there are much of injury accidents there.
No, so we did not dig
Okay.
into
I just-
the injury. And I guess when the committee does see the overall, there is an other category. The other category is going to be related to primarily hit skips, where
Okay.
we have an idea of what the offense is, but it wasn't charged because the person got away on the hit skip, so there wasn't an actual charge that was there. But where we had the no sites that reference a lot of those, we sort of put in parentheses, hey, this is based on our analysis, backing versus turning, bike rider that hit a vehicle, improper backing. So they don't count in the official statistics, but we have an idea of what the cause was based on other information of the accident, even though no one was cited.
Okay. Okay, any questions for the police chief? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our fire chief, Chief Linder.
Thank you, Mr. Copley. So for the month of March, we had 17 total fire calls. 16 were within the city, 1 in the township. We did not have to provide mutual aid or receive mutual aid for the month. We had 20 officer checkouts. We had 4 inspection activities and then 6 public education car seat events that we held. Our average response time was just under 6 minutes. Average firefighter on duty at the station working for fire call was 5.41. Average firefighter recall coming from home was just under 3. And then our average total firefighter turnout was just over 8. So that's about a 1% decrease from where we were last year. For the month of March, compared to year-to-date this year versus last year, we're about a 6% increase for total fire calls. Moving down on the bottom, again, the majority of our responses, fire and EMS, just residential family dwellings, followed close by the 24-hour care facilities or nursing facilities, and then multi-family dwellings. Our call volume over time, our busiest time of the day was 11 o'clock in the morning, followed by a close second of 12 o'clock, so lunchtime hours. Breakdown of counts by the stations. So Station 1 had 202 calls, and then Station 1, 108. Any questions on the first page?
On the 24-hour care facilities, type of property calls and everything,
Yes,
how
sir.
many of that 75, I mean, you probably don't know the answer right now, but I'd like to see the answer.
Okay.
How many of those are invalid assist calls? I've been reading some stuff, from different areas where they're starting to charge the facilities $500 for an invalid assist.
Yeah.
Those people should be taking care of their own
I would-
lift
yeah.
assist and that kind of
Off of
stuff.
those numbers, I'm not sure, I'll have to look up, but
I mean, it's probably not big money.
I was
But-
going to say, for the most part, I would say, just off of past history, I think most of the calls that we're receiving in the nursing homes, we are actually transporting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
there is gonna
I've
be
heard
a
several where
percent.
there's lift assist and stuff like that there. And I've been seeing it on the news that, communities are trying to, save their residents money,
Yes.
and actually billing the facility for these invalid assist or lift assist or, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to see how that breaks down.
Yeah,
to what we
and
have here.
from reports that I've seen, again, I think COVID started the whole issue, but staffing at nursing facilities has definitely been challenging. That I think everybody got burnt out, and from that point, I've seen definitely a challenge for staffing at nursing facilities.
But that's not our fault.
Correct. No, I'm just saying.
We shouldn't
we've seen
tie up
this-
a
and this is
squad and,
right. It's
manpower
not
and
just
stuff.
Wadsworth. This is across the board. I know another community, same thing, nursing home. I think they're every day for their, and they're a smaller department than us. So yes, I will have to try and find
Yeah,
those numbers and
no.
get back with you on that.
It is important to note that we do bill for those calls. So we're just billing the patient, not the facility, if you will.
But is it right to bill the patient? Because they're paying that facility to be there.
Right.
And they should be provided that service as part of what some of these people are, paying their life savings to, be in a facility. So, and because the stories that I've been told from other areas is they don't like the workers' comp possibility claims and stuff like that. That's why, we'll just call the fire department. They can handle it. Okay, and that's not what we're for. I mean, we're an emergency service.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar and akin to why does the hospital call us? The hospital
Rightfully
doesn't
so.
move people within the hospital. We end up having to move people.
And we should be charging them then.
So I think it's an industry practice to a certain extent. Not agreeing or disagreeing with it. I'm just speaking to the
Yeah.
to the billing aspect of it,
Yep.
kind of thing.
But I mean, at $500 a pop, I mean, it won't be big money.
No.
But it'll be a return.
I mean,
And
the
it won't tie up a squad.
The
and
behavior is
people.
what we want to change.
Right.
So hopefully that the staff does
behavior.
what they're supposed to do, so we're not
They
being
all have,
called
they all
for.
have Hoyer lifts and stuff.
So,
Right.
I just wanted to bring that up.
No, good question. Yeah, I'll pull the numbers and try and find out for you.
Any other questions,
Yeah,
guys?
sure.
on that?
No, I'm good.
On the second page, incident type breakdown of all the various calls. Nothing stood out compared to past months on that. On the right, our EMS data. So for the month of March, we had a total of 274 calls. The breakdown, City 1, 120, City 2, 81, City 3, 39. The township was 31 calls, which is a little higher than what we normally see. And then 3 outside of our jurisdiction. So that gave us a total year-to-date of 804. Out of City 1, we break that down. City 1 Northeast was our busiest quadrant for that month. Looking at our response times, they did, again, the weather, I think, was a big factor for January, February, but numbers did start to go down a little bit for March at 351. Mutual aid given, we provided mutual aid 3 occasions, called mutual aid twice to help assist us. Second ambulance calls were at 62, third ambulance 17, and fourth ambulance 5, which is, most of those numbers are comparable to where we were last year, slightly up on the second and third ambulance calls, which I'll get into on the next page on that, I think the reason for that. Any questions on this page?
Gentlemen?
I have none.
Next page, hospital transports, the majority, or I should say, the highest number that we transported to was Wadsworth at 68, which is about 33% of all the calls. Close second was Barberton Hospital at 27. So about just almost 70% of our calls are going out of the city on that one. So our EMS yearly comparison, as I stated in the last page, 804 calls. That's about 57 above where we were last year, so it's a 7% increase. Our total calls for service so far this year was 919, that's for fire and EMS, and that is 11% increase, about 91 more calls. We have been a lot busier this year than when we were last year so far. Our ALS data, we had 136 for the month, and our BLS was 73. We did give Narcan twice on different occasions. There was one that we classified as an overdose patient. Looking at our squad usage, Medic 2 and 4 are at Station 2, so those are about average, and then Medic 1 and 3 out of Station 1. Nothing out of the normal on that one. Our busiest call volume day for us was Sunday at 47. Any questions on that page? On our last page, just some of the in-house training that we did for fire and EMS, some search and rescue, 2-minute drills, reviewed Chuck 9, getting ready for grass fire season, a couple loss of line of duty death review, and then for EMS, some hoarding conditions, how that mentally affects the individuals. We did a mental health for SUMA. Our med control director came in and provided some mental health for us as first responders. And then we did a review of our trauma protocol. Some outside trainings, Pat Single, he's part of the FIU team for the county. Danny Laparo did our Fire Officer 2 class, and then Assistant Chief Potter, there's a new incident reporting system taking effect, and so he went on a class on that to review that. And then just some of the events, I think the police department mentioned some, statewide tornado. We did have one of our part-time members that was promoted to full-time, so we had his swearing-in ceremony. You'll see that picture there for Caden Bucks. And that concludes this report. I'll just fill you in on the part-time open shifts. For March, the part-time open shifts were about 47%. Looking for all open shifts for full-time and part-time for the month, we were at 67% that were filled. And if there's no questions, that completes my report.
Any questions, gentlemen?
I have none.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to staffing updates. Mr. Hiscock.
Thank you, Mr. Copley, members of the committee. Couple of updates for you here. So we have one of our candidates who's actually hired, who's been with us for a little bit, getting ready to start his police academy experience. It was slightly delayed as a result of an unfortunate incident that injury that he suffered right before he was scheduled to start the academy last time. So he's getting ready to start his academy there. Then I had mentioned this previously, and there's no real update here, but we have two candidates who have all but completed the process that we've requested of them. We have not made firm offers to those individuals, although I have spoken to both of them. We anticipate doing that shortly. We're really just waiting to know dates of the Ohio State Patrol Police Academy start dates, which we anticipate to be in August. One of two dates.
One of 2 weeks in August, yeah.
In August. So I think we'll learn about that quickly, and then we'll be able to make our conditional offers, firm offers to those individuals. And then we have one other candidate who is finishing some of the pre-hiring testing requirements shortly. And so everything appears good on that front. So as long as those items are successfully completed, I think we'll be able to make our conditional offer to that individual, a firm offer.
So it doesn't sound like we're going to get to full strength by the end of 2025.
So,
Yes.
With the academy not starting until August, because.
academy starts till August, it finishes early January.
January, yeah.
So we'd have the number on the schedule.
You have number, but you won't have people.
They wouldn't be entering FTO until January of 2025.
So we're going to be short
The
still.
other candidate that the safety director referred to is currently an officer, so he doesn't.
So he's already.
He's already certified, so once his process is done, the hope would be to turn that around fairly quickly, and the hope would also be to have a fairly compressed FTO period because he has 5 years of experience. So.
Okay.
there any retirements coming up that we're losing any officers that anybody's aware of? No names.
Not this year, but potentially next year.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Okay, sir.
Firefighter paramedic process. So we did have our civil service test. I believe we had 17 test takers. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong with her.
Actually, there was 26 that signed up. 2 did not take it because it was online, and then 1 did not pass. So we had a total of 23 that passed.
And so I believe we have first round interviews scheduled.
Starting next week.
Okay.
Next week.
And we're down 1 with 1 retirement, or did you use currently? We're down
Currently,
1.
yes.
Is there anyone else leaving that you're aware of?
There potentially might be 1, yes. I have not
We'll be down
received
2, okay.
a hard official data on that. If that individual is doing that, there might be a potential for 1 individual.
So we may have to get 2 out of this list.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
I do not have any update on the part-time fire EMS status.
Still waiting on the agility test with, both of them were scheduled for April, but with the Easter events, the agility test isn't until the end of the month, the 27th, if I remember right.
And how many do you hope to put on from that?
That would be 2 individuals.
2 individuals. Okay.
And then lastly, in the dispatcher process update, I did receive a background earlier this week that I'm reviewed. I need to sit with Dispatch Supervisor Cynthia and discuss that particular background a little bit before we make some decisions on that particular candidate. And we do have a posted civil service test with a test date of May 13th that's pending. So. Those are my staffing updates.
Okay. Any questions, Jim? Okay, we'll move on then to legislative items. Mr. Hiscock?
Thank you, Mr. Copley, members of the committee. So at the back of your, I hope at least that handout made it to it. Yeah, okay. There are 3 draft pieces of legislation. They are all having to do with the purchase of a dispatch radio console item, which was a budgeted and approved project for 2025. However, when we budgeted this particular project, we did that in the general fund dispatch expense areas, which would seemingly make sense. However, they needed to be budgeted in the 425 capital general fund according to finance. So all that these 3 pieces of legislation do is move the monies from the currently budgeted area within the general fund to the 425 expense fund for capital improvements. There are 3 particular pieces of legislation. One is a budget reduction, obviously reducing the general fund by a certain amount. One is a budget transfer, moving the monies to 425, and then the supplemental, as you all know, allows us to spend the money once it's moved out of 425. This is something that we had planned on doing. Again, shame on me, I budgeted it in the wrong fund, and so
It's called asset management.
There's a part of that I want to say. So I'd ask your consideration. I know this is something that Dispatch Supervisor Cynthia would really like to get going. She's done a nice job in getting quotes. Those quotes have a lifespan, as we all know, in terms of quotes. So I'd be asking council's consideration and the committee's consideration of suspending the rules with the emergency clause. So,
Now, is this for the main dispatch center, or is this for Station 2?
excellent question. It is actually for the main dispatch center. If you're familiar with the layout of the dispatch center, we want to make sure that dispatcher supervisor Cynthia, who's a working supervisor, can be at her particular desk and field radio transmissions and those kind of things. So that's what we're looking at.
That's what this is for?
Yes, and it was something we had planned when we built the new center. We just did not have the budget to sustain that purchase at that time.
Now, do we have radio capabilities from Station 2 still with going to Marks, or did that go away?
I believe we do.
Do we have encoders up there and everything to do the tones
Just, we don't
and
have
everything?
911.
We don't have 911 is the shortfall now, but we have a plan with the county for their mobile 911 system to come to us if we needed to invoke it.
But
So
we have radio capabilities.
we
of this
do,
stuff.
we do, we
Okay.
do.
Okay. Gentlemen, what's your preference?
Yeah.
here? It makes sense to me, I mean, that, you know, this is something that was budgeted and everything, and it was in the plan, you know, when they built the new dispatch center, so.
Yeah.
I entertain a motion to,
I
Move
can
this-
make a motion to move those 3 legislation requests to council with recommendation of suspension of the rules and emergency clause.
I will second that.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Next thing on our agenda then is WFD and WEMS and WPD 2024 annual reports.
I did share those reports with the committee. I know there's a lot there. You may not have had the opportunity to review all of them, but wanted to put it on the agenda and have the chiefs able to answer any questions that you might have about them. Certainly, if you haven't had a chance, you can always ask questions about them at subsequent meetings too. So.
You guys have any questions yet? I mean,
Not yet.
I haven't been through
I
both.
I
of them
haven't
yet.
read it unless they want to sit here and read it to us. I mean, I got all night. And I figure Chief can get through it in about 2 minutes the way he's talking. No.
How many minutes?
Two.
Can
Yeah, okay. I said, I don't have enough time for him. Okay. if there's Okay, we'll go on to other then. We'll start with Mr. Hiscock.
Well, I did want to tell you 2 things. One, this is where I was going to speak to the square data, but I think we've covered that, and certainly that will be as an ongoing tracking mechanism that Chief and I talked about. So we'll have the police records assistant work on making sure that we keep track of those and give the most up-to-date information to the downtown infrastructure project folks when they're ready for it. So we will do that, and certainly we can always report to this committee too on what's happening there. Also, kudos to Lieutenant Dorland and his work on grants. He does an excellent job on not just the body-worn camera grants, but all things grant-oriented, and I know that this committee in particular is very focused on us leveraging every grant opportunity we can. And I will tell you that Lieutenant Dorland has been very, very successful in an area. Grant reporting and grant exploring, quite honestly, was very important to me early on in my tenure with the city, and so it's nice to have somebody who's so diligent and looking for and being successful, because I think there is an art to it. Not everybody is successful and gifted with that ability, but Lieutenant Dorland does a really nice job with that. The other one was a question for Chief. I don't know if he can fill us in. Do you know how much we usually measure it in pounds in terms of the drug take-back day and where we're trending on those kind of things?
I do not, but I can get those numbers from the drug task force and follow up with that.
I caught Chief off guard with that. I did not tell him I was going to ask that question. I apologize. That's all I have.
That's all you got? Chief Linder.
I have nothing.
Chief Chapin.
I have nothing.
Mr. Yurcheck.
Nothing for me.
Mr.
I have
Wadsworth,
nothing.
don't- You let me down?
I'll lay you down. Well,
That's
sorry, I
okay.
got nothing to tell you.
And I don't have anything, so entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We are adjourned.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.